Well, some of our very own LCMS leaders are saying the single most urgent challenge facing our church body is an aging population. And now new national data confirms it, and the timeline is shorter than most of us may think for the LCMS. So welcome back to Voices of the LCMS, where we are hearing and listening to real data and real voices in the LCMS. And friends, someone from outside of our top tribe just dropped data that confirms what many of us who are sounding the alarms have been saying all along, that we are not facing a slow fade. We're approaching a demographic cliff. This isn't fear-mongering, it's math. And if you're not already convinced that something's got to change, you need to see what just dropped last week. Well, Ernest Hemingway once described going bankrupt this way. He said it happens two ways: gradually, then suddenly. That was also the line that sociologist Ryan Burge referenced in an article that he published just a few days ago, along with charts that laid out the trajectory that many Christian denominations are on right now, a chart that included the LCMS. And looking at these, if you're in the LCMS, should give you great pause. So today I want to talk about the age factor and why both national data and many of us, our own LCMS leaders, are saying very clearly, something's got to change. I'll get to the charts in just a moment, but again, welcome back to Voices of the LCMS, where we look honestly at real data, real trends, and real challenges facing our church body, not to stir panic, but to seek faithfulness and wisdom for the future. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do so. Just hit that button, and please share these videos with other church leaders in the LCMS. In the State of the LCMS survey I launched last year, when pastors, church workers, and lay leaders were asked to name the single most urgent challenge facing the LCMS, a significant number didn't hesitate. Respondents wrote plainly that the most urgent challenge we face is our aging population. One person said it this way, that we are an aging church body that has done very little to reach young people. Others tied that concern to another theme, a refusal to change or adapt. And still many others voted that the biggest challenge we face, number one, is reaching and retaining youth and young adults. So this isn't just outside critiques. This isn't generational complaining. These concerns are already being voiced by people who love the LCMS and are serving faithfully within it. And they're saying loud and clearly, we are an aging denomination. We're not engaging effectively with the younger generations, and it feels like we're refusing to adapt, which is why Ryan Burge's article matters so much right now. He recently wrote this article titled, "When Are Half of Your Members Going to Be Dead?" Now that's not clickbait. He's looking at math. And Burge isn't LCMS, so he's not a part of our internal debates. He's not arguing about worship styles, pastoral formation, or synodical politics. He's simply looking at the data. And his conclusion is sobering, that most American Protestant denominations are not declining in a slow, manageable way, but they're approaching a demographic tipping point, and depending on the chart, well, the LCMS ranks either worst or second worst when it comes to aging. Let me show you 5 charts. Here's the first. It references the age distribution from the top 20 reporting denominations in the USA. Only the Episcopal Church has a higher age average than the LCMS. The second chart shows that the LCMS has the third highest percentage of baby boomers in their congregations, trailing again only the Episcopal Church and the United Methodist Church. The third chart may be even worse. It shows the mean and mode age. The mean, of course, is the average, which is 62 for LCMS, the highest of all 20 denominations. The mean can be misleading. It's a relatively small number of younger adults can actually pull that average down, and that's the modal age, the age where the largest cluster of people actually sits, which is 66 years old. The mode doesn't lie. All right, 2 more charts. Fourth chart shows the percentage of 18 to 40-year-olds currently in our synod has gone down from 28% to just 21% now. 1 in 5. A lot of new research is actually showing an openness in younger generations to Jesus, but it's just not happening at a large scale in our church body right now. Now those numbers are going down. And then finally, chart number 5, this is the one. Assuming that all members live to 85 years old, which by the way is a charitable number, considering the average death is 79, we will lose 30% of our members by the year 2041 just by death and doing nothing. And we will lose 50% by the year 2047, just 21 years from now. This isn't theoretical. This isn't 50 years away. This is a near-term reality. As I was sitting with the data, one verse came to mind from Psalm 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. This is not about panicking. It's about being wise. And being wise doesn't ignore time. It pays attention to it. And this is where Hemingway's line comes back into focus. That decline doesn't feel dramatic until it is, right? My teenage son is growing every day, but it's hard to see that growth day by day. It's only when he goes to a family reunion that aunts and uncles and grandparents say, wow, you've really grown. So likewise, you may not see this decline overnight. Your church might feel stable today. Your church might be an outlier. Maybe you're doing just well. The lights are on, the programs are running, the budgets are holding, the structures are remaining intact. But that stability in our church body is being propped up by one aging generation that statistically makes up nearly 2/3 of our church. For the LCMS, the largest concentration of people in our church are already near or beyond retirement. And when you add on this, the trends found in generations, boomers are only attending church 1.4 times a month, as opposed to Gen Z, which is 1.9 times a month. So we've not only got major issues right now we're dealing with the current baby boomers, but from a statistical perspective, we're in some serious trouble. And when that generation ages out, decline doesn't just continue, it accelerates. Burge says something that every church leader should sit with, that a church without a full nursery is careening toward demographic disaster. And when I read that, I immediately thought back to our LCMS survey. We are an aging church body. We are struggling to reach young people. And many leaders are naming a resistance to change or adapt. And those three things together are not a small problem. They're an existential one. Now, let me be clear about something. This is not about blaming older members. The baby boomers are not the problem. They, in fact, are probably the reason the system is still functioning at all. They've been faithful. They've served. They've given generously. They've carried this church body for decades. But support beams don't last forever. And if we rely on them without intentionally building what comes next and underneath it, the collapse won't be gradual. It will be sudden. So where does that leave us? Again, not with panic, and not with abandoning theology. We don't have to chase trends. But let's be honest. If age is the issue, and both the national data and our LCMS leaders are saying it is, something's got to change. And that change isn't going to come from pretending the charts don't exist. It's not going to come from doing the same things and hoping for a different outcome. It's going to come from leadership willing to have hard conversations. It's going to come from bringing innovators to the table and then actually letting them go, letting them run experiments and letting them try new ministries and letting them plant churches and letting them imagine new pathways for forming and raising up pastors. It's going to be listening to the churches that are growing and are leaning into younger generations and learning from them. We can't just do nothing. Because if we do, well, it will just be gradual drift followed by a sudden collapse. And we'll be looking around saying, what happened? So here's my question for you. What do you think needs to change? If something's got to change in the LCMS, where do you think we need the most courage right now? I genuinely love to hear your answers. You can drop them in the comments below. This conversation matters. And just briefly, if you'll be in Phoenix next week for Best Practices for Ministry, I'm going to go deeper into this. We're going to talk about the 5 biggest obstacles and opportunities facing our church body according to data. And I'll share practical, concrete ideas for what I believe can change. Because here is the good news. We are not without solutions. But sitting back and doing everything the way we always have, I think the charts speak for themselves. We are the people of Jesus who have been redeemed by his blood. We have the Holy Spirit of the living God inside of us. We have faithful pastors and leaders across our nation. We don't just have to sit back. So let's not. Let's do something. Something's got to change. now's the time to do it.